Side Hustle Show 105, How to Retire in Your 30s.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where aspiring part-time entrepreneurs learn how to turn their side hustle dreams into reality. Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. And now, your host, Nick Loper.
What's happening, everybody? Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show. This is episode 105, How to Retire in Your 30s. Now, this is not about winning the lottery. This is not about inheriting a giant sum of money from some rich uncle or anything like that. This is about how to legitimately plan for your financial future so that you are financially free, financially independent, decades earlier than the traditional plan. My guest is Jeremy Jacobson from the blog GoCurryCracker.com, which we'll link to in the show notes for sure. Coming to you live this week from New Media Expo in sunny Las Vegas. And actually, this is a pre-recording, so I'm not in Vegas right now. If all goes according to plan, I should be in Vegas when this thing airs. Now, this is not your typical side hustle show, if there is such a thing, because it's not necessarily about making more money or business ideas or something like that, but it's something that I've been, like, this idea of early retirement is something I've been, like, medium obsessed with ever since I discovered this website called MrMoneyMustache.com, which I'll link to in the show notes as well. If you're not reading it, you should be. Just fascinating story. And this guy, Mr. Money Mustache, retired even earlier than Jeremy, just through a combination of smart investing and frugal living. And the reason for the show is this is the stuff I wish I knew 15 years ago. Like, that would have, we would have made some different decisions, like, without a doubt, had we kind of known this formula. And the basic formula, and Jeremy will share it, is, once you have investable assets or invested assets, 25 times your monthly, or rather your annual spending, like, you are financially, you could live off interest and dividends, in perpetuity, according to the mathematical models, barring any, meltdown. But in that case, you have some skills, hopefully, to fall back on. So this is the math that they should teach you in school, but no one ever does. And this is the practical stuff that I wish that I knew, but no one ever really talks about, or at least I didn't know of anyone talking about it. So, funny story, I actually owned the domain name retiredat25.com because that was when I left the corporate world and had every intention to building it into some, online marketing guru type site, and never really did anything. So if you type that in, it should redirect to sidehustlenation.com if I've done everything correctly. Either way, I discovered Jeremy through a guest post he did over at budgetsaresexy.com, and we had Jay Money on the show around this time last year talking about his blogging journey. But tons of really juicy stuff from this show. So all the notes and links in Jeremy's top early retirement tips are available to you in a 100% free downloadable PDF at sidehustlenation.com/105, or through the link in the episode description of your podcast player app. And just a quick note on these kind of highlight reel PDF documents. Like, if you're already receiving my weekly newsletter, you're not getting added to any extra email list. I'm not going to send you any additional mail because of that. It's just kind of a file delivery mechanism. And to everyone who's not, welcome aboard. Hopefully you'll enjoy that file plus the weekly ramblings, weekly newsletter that comes out. Forgive the background noise at the beginning of this call. It only lasts for a minute or two, and then we get into the juicy stuff on how to make this happen. I think it'll make an impact on your financial decisions going forward, and hopefully cut a few years off of your retirement countdown clock. Hey, Jeremy, welcome to the Side Hustle Show.
Hey, Nick, thanks for having me.
So you're retired?
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah.
How old are you?
That's a good question. Let's see, I was 40. Okay. I was born, 40. And we retired about, I guess 2.5 years ago. So late 30s.
Okay. Now, what about the statistics or something like the average 35-year-old, the average 40-year-old, say, has a net worth of $50,000, $100,000. Like they're not in anywhere close to being able to retire. So how did this work in your case?
Well, yeah, it does. It works very similar to sort of how normal people retire, normal retirement age. Like you work and you save, and then someday you have enough money where your assets are able to fund your normal lifestyle. We just did it a little faster. We retired maybe 30 years earlier than normal.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible. I think a lot of people will be very, very curious to hear how you made that happen.
So there's, I think while we were working, we lived like incredibly kind of rich and luxurious lifestyles. But we just happened to do it way more efficiently than most people do. If you kind of look at where maybe a typical person spends 80% of their money, it's usually in housing, transportation, and food.
Okay.
Right. And we looked very hard. We did lots of research and found a small apartment in a very walkable neighborhood. Right? We were near the university. We were a block from a farmer's market, a block from a grocery store, several blocks from a big park with a stream and kind of old growth forest through Ravenna. You probably have been there.
Right. This is in Seattle. This is not a low cost of living area. Yeah.
This is kind of near the University of Washington in Seattle. And we were, because we lived there, we didn't have a car, right? Like we could walk everywhere. And where we couldn't walk, we just rode bikes. And most days I actually commuted to work by bicycle.
Okay. Hey, Jeremy, I'm getting a bunch of background noise.
Sorry about that. So most days I commuted by bicycle, and I had 3 different routes I could take to work, somewhere between 8 and 23 miles, depending on how I wanted to do it, how I was feeling that day. Even
in the Seattle rain and everything.
Even in the Seattle rain, yeah. And people at work, kind of got used to it, but every once in a while, especially if the weather was bad or something, I'd get some extra crap. But I mean, over 10 years, we easily saved over $100,000 just in having no commuting costs, right?
Okay. Okay. Plus it's keeping you healthy.
Yeah, my waistline was a little lower than average, and then we made most of our meals at home. We had a CSA and like kind of farm delivery box that we'd get, and then we got food from the farmer's market. And my wife is an incredible cook, right? And she, although don't tell her I said this, but it wasn't always that way, right? But like she just she has a passion for cooking, right? And so she just started preparing more and more and more elaborate meals, and eventually, like I'd put her up against any chef I know, and we'll put her on Top Chef or something, and she'll compete very well. But like we're eating, better than restaurant food at home for 10-20% of the price.
Okay.
Right.
So it seems like there's a couple of parts to this equation, and one is the spending. So that maybe isn't something that a lot of people, it's not something that I never really paid attention to in a retirement equation. It was always like, let's shoot for this, big number. Oh, you need $2 million to retire. But it's all kind of a factor of, your lifestyle, your spending habits.
Yeah. So whatever money you're earning off your portfolio, it's going to needs to support your cost of living. So the lower the cost of living, the less money you need to save.
Okay.
And of course, so we were roughly saving 70-ish% of income for quite a while. And then I probably worked 3 years too long and was saving nearly 100% of income at that point. We were just living off the dividends and interest. And it, and so it just starts to snowball. And if you're saving that level, that percentage of income, it really only takes about 10-ish years in order to build up enough net worth to fund your lifestyle forever.
What kept you working those extra 3 years? Was it just the like, can we really do this?
There's a little bit of that, maybe I'd call it fear. Nobody does this.
Uh-huh.
Can we, like I've read stuff, but thinking you can do it and actually doing it are two very different things.
Right. Well, why don't we hear more about this? Because this is like an incredibly empowering financial concept or something, but no one is talking about it. It seems like, unless a segment of the personal finance blogger population talks about this stuff. But like, I never heard about it until like just a couple years ago.
Yeah, it doesn't get a lot of mainstream press. I mean, there was a book some number of years ago called Your Money or Your Life, which sold, I think, millions of copies actually, and there's something like The Millionaire Next Door, which talks about kind of living well below your means and getting to a high net worth while still quite young.
Okay.
But most of the mainstream media is just focused on advertising and trying to sell you stuff. So it doesn't get a lot of publicity, but that's where it is really cool that there are these blogs out there now of, hey, like I've done this and this is how I did it. And there's kind of this community building around it, which is how you found us.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you know when you have enough? Like what's a target that people should be shooting for?
So the rough number has a couple of different names. It's kind of like the safe withdrawal rate or the 4% rule, which says roughly you need 25 times your annual expenses in invested assets. So, rough number, if you spend $40,000 a year, you need $1 million. If you spend $120,000 a year, you need $3 million. And that most of that data, that where that comes from, is there are 3 professors at Trinity University that back tested something from like the late 1800s through modern day, just how much could you have spent of a portfolio and had it last at least 30 years. Okay. Now in our case, we're looking at something more like a 60-year retirement, but who knows what's really going to happen and what the future holds. We took a couple cautious steps there. Like, we're basically full-time travelers, and we started in Mexico and Central America rather than, say, Paris or Tokyo.
Okay.
Just because we knew we could fund that mostly from just cash flow from dividends and interest, and that kind of let us transition into this mentally, just where we were saving a high percentage of income into drawing down the portfolio, while also allowing the portfolio to continue to grow. Okay, so 25x, so that 40,000 number is actually really, really close to kind of our annual spending pre kind of like vacations, or what I'd call kind of like discretionary stuff. So around 40,000 a year. Yeah. So it would take $1 million to sustain the same lifestyle. And most of that goes into rent, honestly, because it's, we're near San Francisco. It's very expensive. If we move to a lower cost of living area, you could conceivably move that cost number down and subsequently your invested, requirement down, or your net worth requirement down. What did you worry about, like inflation? You said, hey, this was only ever tested on a 30-year window. Do you worry about the 60-year window? A little bit, but rationally, right? Like most of the time in that Trinity study, when a portfolio lasted 30 years, at year 30, it wasn't zero, it was millions of dollars, right? But they just didn't carry it any further because nobody was really targeting, long retirement periods at the time. Yeah. And in a few cases, it fails, right? They talk about something like a 95% success rate. Which, right. So 5% of the time, so one year out of that 30, or one case out of those that they studied, you're going to run out of money. Right. But their implementation, because they're just doing, a rough mathematical analysis, is we'll take 4% of our first year. We have $1 million, we'll spend $40K. Next year, inflation is 3%, so we'll spend $40K plus 3%. And we just do that blindly for 30 years. And nobody really does that. If the stock market were to go in the crapper this year, we would probably, I don't know, we'd spend a year in Guatemala instead of in New Zealand or Australia. Okay. Right? Okay. You can make adjustments along the way. So to avoid selling in a down market. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And even the even minor adjustments can have major impact to the value of the portfolio over a 50, 60-year period. Right? I mean, like you spend 1% less and you're talking millions of dollars of difference in the ending value.
Okay.
Just from the power of compound interest over that long of a period.
Right. Okay. So you got my gears turned. I'm glad you brought up the inflation thing, because I wouldn't expect to spend, $40,000 a year, 20 years from now. I expect the cost of living will increase, as it always has.
Exactly.
But that is kind of built into that 25x equation.
Exactly.
Okay. And this is just a straight like index fund investment, or, special dividend paying stocks, special cash flowing properties, or what investments are you holding?
Roughly probably 90% of our assets are just in index funds. And the other 10% I'd probably call like mistakes. It's back when I thought I was smart.
Okay.
And I can do better than an index fund. And of course I never really did, but I still have some of those things hanging on. And I'm just slowly selling those off when it makes sense, and converting everything into index funds.
Okay.
Well, I would say mostly what we have is just Vanguard funds for, we have the Vanguard REIT fund, the Vanguard International Stock Index, and the total market index. That's pretty much all of it. A little bit of bonds.
Okay. Just to hedge a little bit of volatility.
Exactly. Although I'm slowly working that into 100% stock, just because I'm crazy.
Crazy. Well, you're still relatively young.
Well, and we're looking at we have saved enough where we don't really have to worry about running out of money, and having all stock will most likely result in us dying with the largest amount of assets, which will make a really nice endowment for whatever we decide to leave it to at that point.
Yeah. And that's one way to look at it. It's an endowment for yourself. Like this, your net worth is an endowment for yourself. You can essentially live off the interest or live off the dividends, just like a university endowment.
Exactly.
What do you think? So, I'm getting some like selfish investment advice. So a lot of our retirement money is in retirement accounts like 401ks, Roth IRAs. Does that count toward our investable number? Like if you can't, I guess I have a very basic understanding, but like I can't touch that money without penalty until whatever, we're 60 or something, right?
59 and a half.
Oh, okay.
Is what the IRS
It's a long ways out.
They're very specific about it. Yeah. So there is a general rule that says you can't touch your 401k or IRA money until age 59 and a half. But there are, just like with all government rules, there are exceptions and clauses and subclauses, and so you can access that money without penalty as long as you do it in sort of IRS sanctioned ways. So that money definitely counts. It's part of your assets.
Okay.
It's just a question of how you access it. But they are growing tax deferred, and so it's nice to keep them in there. But so you do need some amount of money in kind of a taxable account in order to sort of bridge the gap between when you stop earning an income and when you can access the 401k in full.
Okay.
I never contributed to a Roth IRA while working, and so we have all of our assets split between sort of traditional IRA and taxable accounts, and so we live off the dividends and interest from the taxable account, and then every year I do a Roth IRA conversion, which pulls some of the money out of the 401k and puts it into a Roth IRA, and I just pick that value so that it works out to be a tax-free transaction.
Yeah, tell me about this whole tax-free scheme you got going on, because I understand it, dividends are taxed as ordinary income, or are they not?
Yeah, so in the big picture, my goal, I have two goals. One of them is to never pay taxes again, and the other is to earn roughly $3 million over the next 30 years and pay no tax on it.
Okay. Is this like a personal vendetta against the government, or just like because you can?
It's just because I can. I if I wrote the laws, I wouldn't be able to do this. Like it's completely ridiculous that this is possible. But I kind of like to geek out on finances and math, and so I'm just trying. It's just an optimization game for me.
Okay. Well, enlighten me a little bit on this.
Right. So do you do your own taxes?
Yeah, I've been using TurboTax the last few years.
Yeah. So you know how like you get the standard deduction and personal exemptions are kind of the something everybody gets, right? So if you're married and you're filing jointly, you get about $20K worth of tax-free income every year.
Okay.
So what I can do is I can do a official Roth IRA conversion, which allows me to take money out of my traditional IRA and put it into a Roth IRA, and that's taxed now. But if it's less than $20K, which is my standard deduction and personal exemptions, then it's tax-free.
Okay, so now moving money from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA.
Exactly. Right. So I can take the money from the traditional, move it into the Roth, and then next year I can do it again, and the next year after that I can do it again, and so over the next 30 years I can move hundreds of thousands of dollars tax-free. So I pay no tax going into the 401k, I pay no tax coming out, and then I pay no tax ever on the Roth money.
And that's all above board.
Yeah, that's all perfectly legal and respectful.
So that okay, moving money. I think I might have misspoke. Moving money from your 401k to a Roth IRA.
Well, technically from a traditional IRA.
Oh, okay.
But so once you quit employment, you'll roll over your 401k to a traditional IRA, and then from there you can do the Roth IRA conversion.
Okay, fascinating stuff.
So then on top of that, you can do let's see here. As long as your total income keeps you in the 15% marginal tax rate. So for a married filing jointly couple, this is roughly $90,000.
Okay.
As long as your income is below that threshold, all qualified dividends and long-term capital gains are taxed at 0%.
Okay, so your goal is just to keep the income under that 90K mark.
Exactly. Right. So we get a bunch of dividends every year. And then so this last year, like I publish our tax return on my blog, so you can see exactly what we did.
Yeah, and Jeremy has a ton of stuff, so we'll link up all of these articles on the tax-free living, like the tax return. It's all at Go Curry Cracker, but I'll put all these notes in the show notes for sure.
So we got something like 30K in dividends in 2014, but I can earn up to 90K while still in dividends and long-term gains and pay no tax, right? So then I go look at my account and see like, okay, where can I basically harvest a 50 to 60K gain? And so, then I sell some stocks that I've held for longer than a year, or sell a mutual fund that I've held for longer than a year. And that generates a paper gain of $50,000, $60,000.
Okay.
And then I buy it back, right? So now I paid taxes on that gain this year. I've increased my basis by 50, 60K. And then next year I can do it again. And so over time, I'll just keep raising my basis year by year until eventually I basically have, I've fully raised my basis to the value of everything we own. And this will, no taxes this year, no taxes in the future. And because the basis is higher, whenever there's a down year, I now have potential to harvest capital losses as well.
Where did you learn how to do all this stuff? Like, are you all self-taught? This is very, I don't know. I've never heard of any of this. This is fascinating.
Well, when you don't have a job, you have a lot of time. So most of this I've learned in the last 3 years.
Okay.
And I mean, I've always, like, I studied engineering, but if I hadn't, I probably would have studied finance. Is kind of just a personal interest, and so I've always sort of read books on finance and investing and optimization and so on, and so I had a general notion of what to do, but I didn't really piece it all together until until after retirement.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to ask next. Is like, how do you guys spend your days in glorious early retirement with, another 60 years of your life left in front of you?
Yeah, it evolves. Our first year, we just traveled. We started in Mexico and started working our way south, and a year later, we'd only made it as far as Guatemala.
Okay, very very slow travel. Well, it's lower
Yeah.
it's lower cost to do it that way.
But we just fell in love with Mexico, and we didn't want to leave. And then we had the talk. It's like, hey, I think it's time we had a baby. And we flew to Taiwan, where my wife's from, because we needed some assistance. So we went through IVF treatment here, and we chose Taiwan. Just the price, like they do a lot of IVF therapy here, and the price was roughly 80% off what we got quoted in the U.S. Right, so we spent $7,000 for that instead of $40,000 or whatever in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I think the baby will be due right around the time that this episode airs. So in that case, everyone can wish Jeremy and Winnie some congratulations on the new member of the family. That's really exciting.
Thank you. April 15th he's due. So, but we'll work on, we've been working on Winnie more so than me, growing a baby, and I've been studying Chinese while we're here. We've been doing classes 3 hours a day plus homework, and then I like to try to do something physical everywhere we go, right? So like we hiked up a volcano in Guatemala, and I rode a bike 900 kilometers around Taiwan while we were here.
I didn't know it was that big of an island.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like riding from Seattle to Portland, roughly, I think, and back, right?
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
All right, fair enough.
But it's it's just kind of we prepare good food. We usually we studied Spanish in Mexico and Guatemala. I've studied Chinese here. Winnie's been doing oil painting and watercolor painting classes, and she studied jewelry making in Mexico. And so we kind of do like language, art, and then something physical.
Sounds like a pretty good lifestyle, man.
I like it.
So do you think this is this attainable? Like what would be amazing to see is, a future where more people are living like you guys and not working until they're 70 years old because they have no retirement. Do you think that's realistic or attainable, or are you guys always going to be an aberration?
Yeah, I think for the most part we'll be freaks. It's not because people can do it. It's because people don't want to.
Okay, because it is kind of like, and not. I mean, in the grand scheme of history, you're living still a very luxurious life. It might be considered austere compared to you keeping up with the Joneses and stuff like that. Is that what you're getting at?
I mean, I don't have a Mercedes SUV in the driveway of my 5,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
But we have iPhones. We have a MacBook Air. I have a custom made guitar. We eat out 2 or 3 times a day. I mean, in the big picture, we live incredibly luxurious lives, but we really only spend about $30,000 to $40,000 a year.
Yeah. And then one question that's been on the top of my mind is, where does the Go Curry Cracker name come from?
So one thing, like speaking of things people won't do, our honeymoon, we hiked the Wonderland Trail, which is a 100-mile hike all the way around Mount Rainier in Washington, right? And
beautiful country.
So the cost of our it's amazingly beautiful, right? And the total cost of our honeymoon was basically $0. But it wasn't easy, right? We the last 3 days or so, it was kind of raining and misty, and we were tired and our feet hurt, and we were probably delirious. And we had these curry crackers as part of our diet, and we were just trying to figure out any way we could to keep ourselves going, right? And I think Winnie just kind of said, like, go. Go curry cracker. And so that's kind of been our rallying cry ever since, like we can literally do anything. We just go curry cracker.
Fair enough, man. Okay, that's a good as origin story as any. So I like it, man. Jeremy, thanks so much for joining me. I think this is just a fascinating topic. If people want to dive more into this world of early retirement and this world of all the different tax strategies, I definitely encourage you to go check out the blog at gocurrycracker.com. Some pretty eye-opening material over there. I know I'll be taking a deep dive into that stuff as well. And we'll wrap it up with your number one tip for Side Hustle Nation.
I'm going to go with just start today. If I look back at all of the mistakes that I've made, because of incomplete information, or just probably the biggest one is just not starting sooner. Compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe, and you want to get it started working for you as soon as possible.
Absolutely. I'm very grateful that my parents made me start investing very young. So that's good stuff, man. Well, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Nick.
This edition of the Side Hustle Show is brought to you by Personal Capital. So I just signed up for Personal Capital at Jeremy's recommendation, actually, and have been kind of geeking out on all the cool financial planning tools and charts and everything they have in there all morning. Personal Capital, if you're not familiar, is a free asset management tool, retirement planning tool, where you plug in all your bank account information, your investment account information, what your savings goals are, and it analyzes your portfolio, your allocations, and kind of makes recommendations on what you need to do to get your goals. And big shocker here, it says I'm not being aggressive enough, so I've got some work to do. Think of it like Mint.com, but more aimed at your retirement goals rather than just kind of like inputs, outputs, savings, that sort of thing. So it's going to show you your net worth and what you ought to do with your hard-earned dollars to make them work equally hard for you. Cool thing is, it's totally free to set up an account. So I just got it done this morning, and it's been a couple probably more time than I should, a couple hours digging into this stuff. And if you want to support the show, I encourage you to sign up through my affiliate link. It's sidehustlenation.com/PCAP, sidehustlenation.com/PCAP for Personal Capital. And I hope this episode got you pumped up for some financial freedom, because it definitely did for me. So be sure to hit up the show notes for all the links, especially Jeremy's tax savings strategies, because that is going to take a little bit of time for me to digest. But he's got a whole full write-up on it, which I link to at sidehustlenation.com/105. And over there, you'll also be able to download the free PDF, kind of with all of the juicy early retirement tips from the call. Just a crazy story, out of the box lifestyle, out of the box thinking. Like I talked about at the beginning, the stuff I wish I'd learned about years ago. But really, if there's one takeaway, it's that it's never too late, right? Like the best time to invest, may have been 10 years ago, but the next best time is going to be today. And, to make lifestyle changes, to start saving more money, all that stuff. Like, he's laid out the groundwork to potentially cut years off of your working life, off of your your employment career, off your employment timeline. And if that's not a killer gift, I don't know what is. So thank you so much for tuning in. Back to your regularly scheduled Side Hustle programming next week. Tons of great episodes coming up. You're going to love them. But in the meantime, let's go back out there, make something happen, and I'll see you next week in episode 106. Hustle on.
Thanks for listening to The Side Hustle Show at www.sidehustlenation.com.